Alright, here's another video. This is of the JR XG8. It's an 8-channel radio from JR. Um, this is kind of JR's first radios since they split from Spectrum. And this is what they're trying to bring their name back into the marketplace with these radios. This is kind of their mid-range radio. It's got 8 channels. Some things about the radio that to like, first of all, is the feel of the radio. This has a very nice feel to the radio because it has on the back these molded grips. You can see that the grips are actually molded in to the back, so it gives you a really nice firm grip on the back of the radio. And they aren't the rubber ones that you see in the Spectrum, so they're not going to wear out over time, but it gives you just a really nice feel on the radio. You can get your hands wrapped right around on there, and for a handheld radio, this is probably one of the most comfortable I've ever felt. And the other thing that they did really well is they canted the sticks outwards. If you notice, they're not perfectly vertical. They're actually canted out. That way, when you're moving the stick, you can get to the far extremes without shifting the grip on the transmitter. So that was a really good job on JR's part. A real good ergonomic thing by tilting those sticks outward a little bit. So that way that your thumb doesn't have, you have to shift your grip to get to the far corners. So that was excellent. They also angled the switches on the front here a little bit forward. So it's another ergonomic thing. When you're pinch flying, it's really comfortable to reach those switches. Like I said, it just fits your hand really well. It's kind of subjective to personal preference, but personally, I don't have real big hands, and this radio is really comfortable. It also has this black chrome finish, which I don't know if the camera's picking up very well, but it looks absolutely awesome in person. And it's a black chrome look to it, which is really nice. It's also very lightweight. And one big thing they also did is they used a lithium-ion battery inside the compartment. Let's see if I can get it open here. They put a lithium-ion battery in here, which is the best battery for RC transmitters. Then there's an SD card slot on the bottom also for battery or memory backup, and also for updates. And JR has had a couple updates for this radio as well. I'll get the battery cover back on. It also has a lot of 3-position switches. These are all 3-position switches, and they are really nice switches. They're actually some of the best I've felt. Futaba and JR really have probably the best toggle switches. There's no wobble back and forth. They're solid. There's no play when you try to do the wiggle test. They're smooth as they travel to their different positions. They don't feel cheap or chintzy. They're really nice, premium quality, and that's a big thing that's nice about the radio. The other thing about the radio I like is the trims. They did move this one down a little bit, like Airtronics, so it's a little easier to reach. But they didn't move this one in quite as far. They should have moved this one over a little bit further. They could have done a little better job on that, but it also balances really well from the neck strap. There's another thing to note. It's balanced. The Spectrum is pretty good as well. It's a little bit more tail heavy, or towards the base of the radio. But this one's balanced even better. If you hang it from a neck strap, it feels really good. Also, the sliders on the sides are nice for your camera gimbals. If you have camera gimbals and you want your pan and tilt, you can operate those with your fingertips while you're flying. It's a great way to have a proportional control available to you as you're flying. Real quick into the programming. It's a nice radio. It has a lot of really good features. it has a really neat feature called My List. You can put you can basically make a custom menu. You can put all of the features or functions that you access the most into your own custom list. So you're not scrolling through a bunch of different functions, which is a really cool function. It kind of actually was Airtronics' original idea on their SD10G that I have. They kind of copied that and incorporated it on these radios, which was good. But credit goes to Airtronics for thinking of having a custom menu. But anyway, it's a neat feature. I get out of that. And then also, then you have your main menu. And it scrolls just like, because obviously Spectrum stole JR's design in some respects. It uses the same scroll wheel. A little different menu structure, but similar. Very easy to navigate through. The telemetry, I like how JR did it. It's simple. It's not quite as functional as the Spectrum, but it's easy. So if I scroll to the right, here's your telemetry list. You just hit the key and then you tell it what telemetry sensor you have. So you can get your flight pack value, and then that's where, if you had the sensor hooked up, you would be able to make adjustments to it. It's kind of a neat function there. You can have your altitude, and then this one you can select your, you can even have your flight mode. Flight mode present. So it shows your current flight mode if you wanted to. And then you would just click on, if the sensor was active, you'd be able to click on it and then go in and change those parameters. So that's kind of a neat little deal here. If I go back to, let's see, our list, I can go back to System List, which is the deeper part of the menu. And let's see here. Where's the telemetry? I was going to look at the telemetry here. There's a lot of powerful features on this one too. There's stick position switches, which you can use a position on the stick to activate a function. So you could kick in a higher rate of control once you're past 90% on stick throw. You can do some really crazy stuff with that. Very powerful stuff. Telemetry here. So here you'd have your flight pack. Then here you'd have your voltage alarm. You could say when you want the alarm to go off. So let's say you have a 12 volt pack. You just say I want to set off at 12.2 volts. And then capacity. Right, once it gets down to 300 milliamps. Actually, you know what? No, this is where you set your capacity of your battery. So we have a 2200 milliamp battery pack. And then capacity alarm. Say we want to go to 20% capacity. So when the battery goes down to 440 milliamps, the alarm will set off. And then you can go over here and play the alarm sounds. So when you hear that beeping, that tells you that you've reached a point on your alarm with your telemetry. It's time to probably land and see exactly what that alarm is. So it doesn't have the voice, which is really the best way to have telemetry, but it still is functional, and it's very simple to use because it's simplified telemetry. It still works and everything. I wouldn't say that it's useless or dumb. It would be nice if they would have the voice. I'm sure in the next radios they come out with, they'll probably add voice. But that's how their telemetry works. Very simple. You just scroll over and then you set your telemetry, what you want to be displayed, and then the alarms, each one has a different beep configuration, so you have to listen for the beeps. But it's very simple to use. But the programming part is very robust as far as mixers, flight mode delays. Like I said, the stick position switches. It even has some Boolean switches in here for and or functions. So two switches have to be in a certain position before a function is activated. And that kind of stuff as well. So like I said, it's a really good feel. It's got the JR quality to it. Their sticks are very smooth as well. I can't say they're better or any worse than the Spectrum, because Spectrum's got really good sticks now on their newer radios. Um, but definitely it's a quality radio when you pick it up, and it's pretty light actually. It doesn't feel cheap, but it is lighter. On the lighter side because of that lighter weight battery pack. Lithium ions are pretty lightweight batteries, so. But that grip though on this thing is really. If you're looking for a good thumb radio for thumb flying, this is about as good as it gets for feel. So. But that is the latest from JR, pretty much. That's kind of what they are selling right now in the market, and they got a very good look to them too. I think they really broke the mold. They had a young engineer, or actually it was a graphics design engineer, wanted to design the new radios, and they let him have at it, and this is what he came up with. Kind of looks like a transformer in styling. It's got a really good style to it. And it's a really nice quality fit and finish. The plastic casing, the mold is just top quality on the JR stuff. A negative with the JR is the receivers are very expensive. They're up there in price. They're more than Spectrum or even Jetty for that matter. They're up there near Futaba prices. They both are kind of spendy. But JR is, yeah, you can't get cheap receivers with the JR, unfortunately. I think there's one knockoff receiver out there. I think you can get through Hobby King. But it's kind of a clunky, the bigger size, and it's not, it's okay, but it's, I probably wouldn't trust it on really too much. So you're pretty much stuck buying the name brand JR stuff, which is, unfortunately, they kind of overprice it. But granted, it is quality, so, you're not getting junk, that's for sure. So, but that's the JR.